And a case with major implications. This past Tuesday, the U.S. Supreme Court heard arguments on whether President Biden has the authority to wipe away billions of dollars in student loan debt for millions of Americans. Joining us now is Slate senior writer Mark Joseph Stern. Mark, great to see you again. So my understanding right now, the headlines will likely rule against the Biden administration. But what's your takeaway?
So I think the smart money is on the Supreme Court's conservative majority ruling against the Biden administration and blocking student debt relief. That said, it's no sure thing, and there are some threshold issues in this case that might prevent the justices from even issuing a ruling on the merits of Joe Biden's plan. One of the big problems for opponents of that plan is that it's not really clear who is injured by debt relief when 43 million Americans are put in a better position financially because the government wipes out some debt. It's not really clear who is harmed and thus who has the right to go into court and sue. It's a concept that we call standing, and it's something that the justices debated just as much as they debated the merits of the plan itself. So while I do think a majority of the court opposes this plan and probably thinks it's illegal, I'm not totally sure that a majority would be willing to accept that these plaintiffs even have a right to be here. And it's possible that a narrow majority could toss out this case on those rather technical grounds.
And take us inside. Did either side make a truly compelling case in front of the justices this week?
So I think that Solicitor General Elizabeth Prelogar did a really terrific job explaining why these plaintiffs do not have any right to be in court to sue against this plan. I think she blew the other attorneys really out of the water. And her argument was pretty simple. The individuals who have come before the court, they say that they don't like the plan because it's not broad enough, because it doesn't relieve enough debt. And so they're asking for the court to strike down the whole thing and block anyone from having any debt relieved at all. And it's very difficult to understand how that gives them a right to sue, because what they're asking for wouldn't actually help them. It wouldn't give them any kind of relief. It would simply prevent 43 million other borrowers from getting any relief. And Justice Amy Coney Barrett really drilled down on this point and several others during arguments and had some very strong colloquies with the Solicitor General, where it seemed like they agreed. You don't often hear Elizabeth Prelogar and Amy Coney Barrett agreeing. They tend to represent different sides of debates. But here it seemed clear that both of them were extremely skeptical that these plaintiffs had any standing to sue.
And Mark, looking ahead, what type of impact will the ruling either way have on the economy?
So a major impact one way or the other. We're talking about $400 billion in debt here. Some economists fear that if all of that debt is wiped off the books, that it could contribute to some of the inflationary problems that this country is experiencing today. But on the other hand, if that debt remains, individual borrowers are going to be spending less. They're going to be less likely to purchase homes. They're also going to have some kind of negative impact on the economy. And this is a really important point here. This plan is partially designed to close the racial wealth gap. There's a lot of data that shows that if this debt is forgiven, that there will be a smaller gap in wealth between Black and white Americans. So if the debt isn't forgiven, the racial wealth gap will not only remain the same, it will actually get worse and grow bigger, because statistically, people of color are more likely to hold student debt. They're more likely to hold a bigger amount of student debt, and they appear to be more likely to default on that debt as well. And none of that is good for the economy.
And Mark, just getting a degree right now is so much more expensive than what it was before. So what happens next? When should people expect a final decision on this and looking ahead?
So it's possible we won't get a decision until as late as June, perhaps the end of June. That's when the court usually hands down big cases. Now, this case was expedited. Both parties agreed that the court should act on it as quickly as possible. So there's a chance that the court could hand down a decision within 1 or 2 months, possibly by late April or early May. That depends on how the court rules. If there's a dissent that takes a long time to write, but it seems that the latest possible time would be late June. So individuals who are concerned about their debt, who are concerned about repayment on the debt starting, they should really begin planning for that, because again, it's more likely than not that the court will block this. And the Biden administration has said that one way or another, it is going to end the pause on student debt repayments. So people are going to have to start forking over that money once again.